Hi, I'm Gwen from Montana, USA. Please like and subscribe. My dad comes from a family where entire generations devoted their lives to gymnastics or were traveling circus performers. Uncles and aunts, grandfathers and grandmothers, great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers, and even great-great, all of them somehow connected their lives to sports, had slender, flexible, and toned bodies, and aspired to get to the top of the Olympics. We even had something like a museum at our home with different years' sports trophies, which have become family relics. Some fate was awaiting me and my sister Goldie. Dad dreamed that one of us would glorify the family Hall of Fame with the highest award from the Gymnastics World Cup. Therefore, when we were just babies, we took our first steps not on the floor like every other child, but on a tightrope in our yard. And when we got older, in order to earn breakfast, we had to run 10 kilometers each morning. Goldie, whose name means gold, was 3 years older and therefore one step ahead in everything. Or rather, 3 steps. And of course, she was the one to become my dad's golden girl from a young age. And not just dad's. I don't know a person who wouldn't admire her. The most charming, slender, sociable, athletic, smart, knowing how to present herself. It's all about our Goldie. Next to her, I looked like a waste of space. Even on my birthday in the 2nd grade, when my dad threw a big party for me and invited the whole neighborhood, everyone's attention was, of course, on my sister. Goldie, baby, at 11 years old, you look like a movie star. A girl like you must have a great future. Oh, how can you be so cute and pretty? My guests complimented Goldie, tripping over each other and looking right through the birthday girl. Ha! I shouted, from the resentment tearing my heart apart. At that moment, something in my stomach burst. I fell to the floor and shrunk into myself with physical pain. All the guests rushed to me, and my frightened dad took me to the hospital, where I stayed until the end of the day. There, I thought angrily. At least like this, I'll distract everyone from Goldie and spoil everyone's party. But when we got back home, it turned out that I spoiled the party only for myself. My sister greeted us and said smugly, "Gwen, I'm so sorry you missed your own party, but I'll cheer you up. Your guest and I didn't waste any time. They just left before your return. I entertained them the best I could, and we had a great time." I was so angry, and my sister turned out to be so mean. As I got older, I moved into the background more and more, and all the rays of glory fell on the golden girl. She won serious gymnastics tournaments and was the most popular girl in school. In the meantime, I was growing up as a clumsy and somewhat withdrawn child, who also loved sports, but even more being alone and reading books, especially philosophical novels. One day at our ranch, I was sitting under a tree and enthusiastically reading another book. Suddenly, a boy fell from above and was a millimeter away from crushing me. "You almost killed me, you idiot! Where'd you come from?" I yelled as I was checking out the guy. I liked him, so in a more friendly way I added, "Are you hurt?" "I am an angel who fell from heaven," he began. But when he saw that I was making a cuckoo sign with my finger, he joyfully laughed. And it was so contagious that I couldn't resist and laughed in response. The guy's name was Ethan, and he lived next door and recently moved to our area. I'm hiding from my stepmother. I fed some important documents to our guinea pig, and now I have to pay for it. My stepmom's not a nice woman. She's lying to my dad, so I do dirty tricks on her, said my new acquaintance. I wanted to give Ethan some apples from our garden and show him a great place to hide next time, but when he tried to get up, he almost screamed in pain. It looked like he had twisted his ankle. At that moment, we saw Goldie on the road riding a bicycle in our direction. Just what I needed, I thought, getting irritated. And Ethan admired my sister, forgetting about the pain. "What a wonderful vision! She's a goddess!" he whispered in a knee-crooking voice. Goldie pretentiously drove up to us, tossing her voluminous hair back and giving Ethan her signature smile. And when she found out what was the matter, she offered to give him a ride. The guy was beside himself with joy. You could see hearts jump out of his ears. Despite the intense pain, he got on the bicycle rack himself, like a princess on her prince's horse, and took Goldie by the waist. As they drove into the horizon, just like the ending of a romance movie, and I started punching the air and cursing Goldie. Why, when someone who could have become my friend appears in my life, Goldie shamelessly steals him from out from under me? I hate my sister, I thought evilly. But then it got worse. Ethan and Goldie were now studying in the same class and had become friends. And of course, her new friend spent a lot of time at our house, and I couldn't help but fall in love with him. He read the same books, rooted for the same football team, dreamed of living on a desert island, but our conversations were always interrupted by Goldie, who was taking Ethan to her room. And he looked at my sister with loving puppy eyes and totally obeyed her. When I was in the 9th grade, a grandiose book fair was going to be held in the city, with popular authors from all over the country participating. Ethan and I both loved this kind of stuff, so I offered him to go together, and as usual, Goldie intervened in our conversation. Although she definitely didn't like book fairs. She said that Ethan would go with her, and they didn't want their silly little sister to follow them around and get in the way. "But Goldie, we could take," my friend started. My sister interrupted him, and in an uncompromising tone said, "Either Gwen or me." Naturally, Ethan didn't choose me. I decided to take revenge on my mean sister. Sneaking into her room, I carefully changed the dates on her gymnastics schedule. And one morning at breakfast, I heard the cry of my angry sister, who saw dozens of missed calls and messages from the coach on her phone. It turned out that Goldie missed the first competition of the season and was disqualified. And of course, she understood whose fault it was. "Oh, you little snake!" Goldie grabbed my hair and scratched my face. Dad took us apart and sent my sister to her room and didn't say a thing to me. He just looked at me sadly and reproachfully. I also understood my guilt. I didn't know that Goldie would be disqualified for 6 months. After that, my sister went to a sports camp in a neighboring city, and I never found the strength to apologize to her. When suddenly, shocking news. Goldie got into an accident and is now in the emergency room. Dad immediately rushed to my sister, and I was sobbing into my pillow at night, not knowing what to think. Fortunately, everything worked out, and Goldie's life was not in danger. Dad brought her home 2 weeks later in a wheelchair, and I was horrified. And my sister was depressed. She was silent all the time and ignored everyone. As Dad said later, her recovery would take more than a year. "Gwen, our Goldie is out of action for a long time. I'm sorry to say this, but a fact is a fact. Our Golden Girl covered most of the expenses, both by performing at commercial tournaments and with her modeling contracts. Now this burden and responsibility will have to be put on you. Otherwise, we won't be able to handle our loans, and the banks will auction off our big, beautiful house." I had no idea how I, so clumsy and awkward, could replace our star, Goldie. The only phrase that my sister honored me with in this time was angry and prickly. "You can never be me, you little snake." I felt some support from Ethan, who after the accident literally moved into our house and looked after Goldie. He said that my sister had post-traumatic shock and everything would be fine, and that I could definitely do it. I began to intensely prepare for the competition, and in the first one I took 3rd place. It was a spectacular debut, and journalists noticed me. At first, of course, they called me Goldie's sister. But when my success started to look not like a coincidence, but a consistent pattern and a great prospect, they began to consider me a rising sports star and called me only by my name. The situation was more complicated with modeling contracts. I didn't consider myself a beauty and didn't know how to pose. But as soon as a team of stylists did their magic on me, I saw a gorgeous girl in the mirror. And when I saw my photo in the fashion magazine covers, I completely changed the idea of who I was, and the people around me did the same. It turns out I was very beautiful, but unlike Goldie, I didn't know how to present myself and emphasize that beauty. At school, I became more popular than my sister, and one day Ethan came up to me and made a joke that he had made an appointment a month in advance just to talk to me. I noticed that he looked at me differently, as if he saw the real me and stopped seeing Goldie. "How do you like my new image?" I said shyly. "Gwen, you looked great before, but now you're like a girl from a fairy tale." When he said it so dreamily, I thought that maybe my friend would finally love me back. But suddenly Ethan added, "You know I've been in love with Goldie for many years. Do you think now is the right time to confess my feelings?" This question sobered me right up and put me back on the ground. "Yeah, of course, it's about time," I said, and added very quickly, "It's impossible not to fall in love with you." But how surprised I was when one evening I saw Ethan running out of our house in tears. It turns out that Goldie told him that she couldn't give him anything but friendship, and it broke our friend's heart. After such a shock, he moved to a different city to live with his mom, who divorced his dad, and he didn't even say goodbye. Goldie still didn't communicate with me, and I graduated high school and focused completely on my sports career. Not surprisingly, I soon won the World Cup, which became our main family relic and took an honorable place in our home museum. Dad was beside himself with happiness. His dream had come true. In the meantime, I signed several major contracts and moved to New York for convenience. And imagine my surprise when I accidentally met Ethan on the street. He was very happy to see me and invited me out for coffee. It turned out he had entered a university and now also lives here. After the accidental meeting, we started hanging out, and a few months later, my old friend invited me to his birthday party. We danced a lot, and we had so much fun. And after midnight, Ethan hugged me tightly and kissed me tenderly like in a fairy tale. I experienced a range of different emotions. Number one, my first love woke up in me. Yes, I still loved Ethan. But these feelings were interrupted by disturbance. Did my friend decide to replace my sister with me since nothing worked out with Goldie? I wanted to run away, but Ethan took my hand, turned me around and said, "Gwen, I understand what you're thinking, but Goldie was a calf love, which has nothing to do with the mature feelings that I have for you. You and I have the same mindset, common hobbies and dreams, but it's not the main thing. I truly love you with all my heart." And from that day on, our beautiful story began, a story worthy of a whole novel. And a week later, we went to a party in Goldie's honor together. After the injury, my sister didn't return to big sports and decided to open a gymnastics school. She called and invited me to the opening. She said that she missed me a lot and wanted to start over.